Hello lovies and welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad you're here and I'm so glad you clicked on today's video. We are going to be talking about all the books that I read in August as well as my September TBR. I wanted to combine the two videos because I actually haven't done a wrap up in what feels like the longest time, and I just thought it'd be more fun to kind of squish them together. But yeah, we are going to be talking all about the books that I read in August plus one book that I read in July, and then we're going to be going through my absolutely insane, most ridiculous TBR list ever. I don't think I've ever had a monthly TBR as insane as this one. We'll talk more about that when we get there. Before we hop into it, I just want to say a quick thank you to Book of the Month for sponsoring today's video. I've been a member of Book of the Month 2-3 years now. I just love Book of the Month. If you've never heard of them before though, they are a monthly subscription service, and basically every single month you'll get this adorable little blue box at your doorstep. What makes Book of the Month so amazing though is that they have a team that vets out the best books by new authors that you may have never heard of before, or some of your favorite authors, and they come up with a curated list that you get to choose from every single month, and then you get them delivered to you. It's so fun choosing my reads every month on their website because they have such a fun and wide range of books to choose from. I've actually found some of my favorite authors because of Book of the Month, and that's why I love them so much personally, because I'm able to try out new books and new authors that I would have maybe never thought to pick up before. Before the month of September, I picked out two books that are definitely at the top of my TBR list because they sound so good. The autumn vibes they are giving off, guys, they're vibing. The first book I picked up is The Love Elixir of Augusta Stern. Look how stunning this cover is, okay? I chose this because it's a second chance romance and there's potions and elixirs and remedies in it. Really just sounds like a fun and cozy book to read in the fall time. And then the second book I picked up is Phantasma. This is another insanely beautiful cover. What really got me with this one is that it's a dark romantasy, and it's basically Caraval meets Throne of the Fallen, and I just feel like it's gonna be so fun and amazing. They also offer the best prices for new release hardcover fiction, and for the month of September they actually have an incredible offer where you can get your first hardcover book for only $5 using the code CARDIGAN. Book of the Month is totally risk-free, so you can skip any month, anytime, and you won't be charged. Book of the Month is literally one of my favorites though. I could not recommend them enough, so make sure to check them out. You can get your first book for only $5, guys. That is such a steal. With all that being said though, thank you so much to Book of the Month for sponsoring today's video, and without further ado, we're gonna hop right into it. We're gonna start off with my August wrap-up. I haven't had a solid reading month like this in such a long time, and what I mean by that is I haven't had a reading month where so many books that I read were high ratings. August is a really great month, and I'm so excited to talk about all the books I read. To start off though, we're gonna talk about the book that I read back in July, and that is Reckless by Lauren Roberts. It's no secret that I'm obsessed with Powerless and Powerful. Reckless is the second book in the series, and I was just as obsessed with it as I was with Powerless. I ended up rating it 5 stars, and I've seen so many people say that they were really disappointed with this book, but in my opinion, and obviously everybody's reading taste is totally different, Reckless is exactly what I wanted and needed after book one, mainly because book one leaves off on a cliffhanger. The entire story is such a slow burn, and you're just itching. You're itching for that romance, you're itching for those scenes, and Reckless full on delivered those, and I was so happy and content with reading it. I can't say too much about this just because if you haven't read book one, I don't want to spoil what happens in here. Basically in this, we're just continuing on the story of Peyton. Obviously if you read book one, you kind of know what's going on in book two, and I just personally loved it. Lauren Roberts has such a fun and easygoing writing style. It was one of those books that I didn't want to put down. It was super addicting, and the romance, guys, the romance was romancing in here. I love the banter. I feel like she's so good at writing banter. I feel like there's so many beautiful little moments we get throughout the story, and then the way that it ends off, I'm unwell, okay? Why she gotta do that to us? Jumping into the books I read in August, we have Lightlark by Alex Astor. I know this is kind of like an OG older book talk romantasy book. I feel like everybody and their mother has read this book, and when I was looking at reviews and ratings of it, I feel like everyone is very 50-50 on it. You either love it or you think it's very poorly done. I was on this side. I absolutely loved it. This was a 5-star read for me, and I am so very excited to jump into book 2, which is Nightbane. Book 3 is coming out in October, I believe. October or November. Book 1 was absolutely amazing. I feel like it was the perfect mix of action, mystery, magic, romance, everything I love when it comes to reading romantasy books. I definitely got in Lightlark. Our main character is Isla Crown. She is the ruler of the wildling realm. They basically are the creators of everything living, like plants and flowers. And in this universe, there's a total of 6 realms and 6 rulers. A super long time ago, there was a curse basically set in all of the realms and rulers, and every 100 years, the centennial happens. All 6 rulers come together to Lightlark to basically compete and work together to figure out how to break their curses, because if they don't figure out how to break them, ultimately all of the realms are eventually going to fall off. The rulers come together every 100 years to try and break the curses. It's also like a game though, because there is one ruler at the end who wins, essentially wins this game, and they are granted the most power. Our main character Isla though is, I believe, the youngest ruler, and it's also her first centennial, and part of the whole game and part of breaking the curses is one of the rulers has to die off at the end. So Isla goes into this very nervous because she feels that she may be the one targeted. There's so many fun other little aspects in here though. Romance. The romance, guys. Oh, this was such a fun and good romance for me. It definitely hit. I was obsessed with it. We kind of get like a little love triangle in here, as well as an enemies to lovers. The romance was romancing. It was amazing. I ate this book up. The plot twist. So many plot twists in this book that I did not see coming. Next up we have Apprentice to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Mayer. This was my face throughout all of August because the books that I read, hits guys, all hits. Apprentice to the Villain, Hannah Nicole Mayer. This is the second book to Assistant to the Villain. She's another author that I have just fallen so hard for. I'm obsessed with her writing, her characters, her world. Since this is book 2, I can't say too much about it just because I don't want to spoil book 1 for you guys. If you haven't read book 1, which is Assistant to the Villain, that is a book I could not recommend enough. When I read that book, I had never read anything like it in my entire life. It's basically a fun fairy tale romantasy book, but your main character is the villain and his assistant. It's a laugh out loud type of fantasy. There's so many jokes and puns in this book. The characters in the story are constantly cracking jokes. The villain, who you're supposed to be afraid of and who's supposed to be this big bad guy, is absolutely hilarious and honestly sometimes very relatable. Book 1 is so much fun though, and I could not wait to jump into book 2. This was everything I needed coming from book 1 because you do leave off on a cliffhanger, and it is probably one of the craziest and hardest cliffhangers I've ever read. Jumping into book 2, I was so happy. Very similar to Reckless, I feel like book 2 gave me everything that I needed and wanted from book 1. And when I finished this, I just felt so happy, satisfied, and content with everything. Book 1 is definitely a slow burn. There's a lot of miscommunication in there, which absolutely drove me crazy, but for some reason I still love that book so much. Our main character is Evie, and she basically falls into the hands of the villain and ends up becoming his assistant, and throughout the whole story, the villain is basically trying to figure out why this cute little girl isn't afraid of him. Evie never shies away from the villain and the gruesome things that he kind of does throughout the story. She's just not afraid of him. The whole story is just so much fun. It's hilarious. Book 1 was such a magical and fun experience. Book 2 was just as amazing. I ended up rating it 5 stars, and again, the cliffhangers. When I tell you guys, I was annotating like every single page. I was literally going highlighter crazy, pen crazy. There's just so many amazing and sweet moments throughout this entire book that, again, I was just craving from book 1, and I got everything that I wanted in book 2. Absolutely amazing. 5 stars. Next up, we have Bride by Allie Hazelwood. This was another 5-star read of August, guys. I'm not even kidding. This is her first paranormal romance. Allie Hazelwood is another favorite author of mine. I love all of her romances, especially because they're all about women in the STEM field, and I just think that's really cool. This though is so drastically different from any book I have ever read by her. This was another book that a lot of people were kind of 50-50 on. Some people didn't really like it, and they didn't like how drastically different it was from her normal writing. Other people absolutely loved it, devoured it, ate it up. I feel like the majority of people who enjoyed this book also are Twilight lovers, Teen Wolf lovers, supernatural lovers, stuff like that. If you love that stuff, you most likely love Bride by Ali Hazelwood. So clearly I absolutely love this book. I ate it up. I thought it was so much fun. I love vampires and werewolves and the enemies to lovers between them. Our FMC is Misery though, and she is basically the daughter of the head councilman vampire. She's basically put into an arranged marriage with the alpha. Vampires and werewolves, they don't get along, they don't like each other. There's definitely this hatred between one another, and this arranged marriage is basically made to create peace between the two of them. Misery is set to marry Lo, who is the alpha of his pack, and the whole story is basically this fun enemies to lovers between the two of them. There's also like more to the storyline and the politics of their world that I thought was just really cool and interesting. Ultimately though, this just reminded me so much of Twilight and Teen Wolf, and I think that's why I loved it so much. I almost felt like I was a kid again, revisiting some of my favorite worlds and characters, even though this is so drastically different from the two of them. Definitely one of those books that have you kicking your feet and giggling all night long. This is also the Afterlight edition that I have, and I'm so happy I took the chance and got it before reading the book because these edges, absolutely obsessed. Next up we have Daydream by Hannah Grace. This is her newest release and it follows the story of Henry Turner and Hallie. I was so excited to pick this book up and read it because Henry is a character that I've just been wondering about since book 1 in the Maple Hill series, and I'm so happy we finally got his story. It is very different compared to book 1 and book 2, but a good different, and I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed how different it was. This was another 5-star in the month of August, and basically what we get out of this book that I personally love reading the most, tutoring arrangement with a hockey player. I think it is so fun, and I also feel like it's just me thinking back to The Deal by Elle Kennedy because that's one of my favorite books ever. This kind of gave off similar vibes just because of the tutoring arrangement. Aside from that though, our FMC Hallie is a book girly. She loves books. She's also a Swiftie. There's like little Easter eggs throughout the book that is kind of relating to Taylor Swift that I thought was just so fun to pick up on. Hallie and Henry basically have this really adorable meet cute, and he crashes her book club, and that's kind of how they meet and start talking and get into this tutoring arrangement. I just feel like everything about their story was so sweet and genuine and wholesome. I feel like I haven't read a cute fluffy romance like this in such a long time, and it definitely hit the spot. Also, the overall found family trope in the series is so amazing. I love that we revisit past characters and couples, and it just makes my heart so happy. Next up, The Wicked King by Holly Black. Oh my gosh, this was amazing. It was 5 stars. I was literally giving out 5 stars left and right in the month of August, guys. I felt like Oprah. You get a 5-star. You get a 5-star. That was me all of August. I'm not even kidding. This was so stinking good. You guys were not lying when you said book 2 is so much better than book 1. I read The Cruel Prince a few months ago and I liked it, but it wasn't my overall favorite. Book 2 was my favorite. Book 2 was so good. We're basically continuing on the story of Jude and Carden. We're kind of seeing the aftermath of everything that happens at the end of book 1, which crazy. Could not believe the way that book 1 ended. What a plot twist that whole book was, honestly. This was so good. Oh my gosh. Everything about this was so good. I was so into the story of this book and what was going on. The politics of this world is literally unlike anything I've ever read before, and that's why I really like Holly Black as an author. The little moments we get between Jude and Carden too, I was eating them up. The enemies to lovers is so real because I feel like these two characters genuinely despise each other. They despise every single little thing about each other, but they're also in love with each other. Again, everything that I wanted out of book 1, everything that I was craving, I got handed to me in book 2. So very happy, very content with how this went, and I'm so excited to jump in to book 3, which is The Queen of Nothing. Actually, I don't think I even have that on my September TBR. Going on the September TBR. The last book I have is Love Unwritten by Lauren Asher. Can you guys guess what I rated this book? 3 stars. I rated this book 3 stars. This may have been one of the most disappointing reads of 2024 for me, to be completely honest. I did not love this. But to be completely honest, I don't think I'm loving this series at all. I mean, this is only book 2, but I remember reading book 1. I just didn't care for it. It was definitely disappointing for me because I love the Dreamland Billionaire series. I love the Dirty Air series. The Lakefront Billionaire series is just not, it's not hitting for me, guys. I don't know what it is, but I'm just not really into these books. I think I rated book 1 3 stars as well, so I thought for sure book 2 would have been a really fun and exciting read for me, but I just found myself getting so bored. I felt like it was dragging on, not a lot was happening. Our FMC in this is Ellie. She's basically the nanny to Nico, whose father is our MMC. Ellie's also like a musician, which I thought would be really cool. Overall, I just thought this dragged on a lot. It's over 600 pages, and I personally think this book could have been a lot better if it was capped at like 300 pages. We have 300 pages of just like nothing, in my opinion. I mean, I'm literally talking, if we cut this book in half, it probably would have been so much better. I just feel like the books are super overwritten, they're drawn out, they're so slow and laggy, and that just leads to them being really boring, in my opinion. So not my favorite, unfortunately. I don't know if I'll pick up the next book in the series. That's how nervous I am about it. We'll see what happens. Now we're gonna jump into all of the books that I am hoping to read in the month of September. So many books, guys. This is probably my most ambitious monthly TBR I have ever done. I'm gonna start with The Queen of Nothing by Holly Black. I just put this on my list when we were talking about The Wicked King because I realized that I didn't put this on my September TBR. It's definitely a book that I want to hop into very, very soon, just because I just wrapped up The Wicked King, and the way that The Wicked King kind of wraps up is pretty crazy. If you know, you know. So I'm really excited to hop in to Queen of Nothing. I've seen so many amazing quotes from this book and so many positive reviews. And I know the main plot of this series isn't meant to be romance. I know everyone says it's a subplot, but I am so excited to read this book for the romance. I'm so excited for the romance in this. I feel like The Wicked King definitely delivered well, and now I'm really excited to see how it wraps up and what happens in Queen of Nothing. Next up, we have Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver. I just got this in a PR box the other day, and I think it is so stinking cool because it's not like the Bloom edition. It's just like an indie edition, I guess, and I love the foiling on it. Also, could we talk about these edges? I think this is so cute, but what really caught me off guard, the pages are orange as well, which I don't think I've ever seen a book that has like colored pages like this. So I thought that was really, really interesting. But we have Wild Eyes. This is book 2 in the Rose Hill series, and this tells the story of Weston and Skylar. I'm really excited to read about them because Weston is the older brother to our FMC in book 1, and he's also like the best friend to our MMC in book 1. He's a single dad though of 2 kids, and Skylar is, I believe, a musician of some sort, and it's gonna be a romance between the 2 of them. So I feel like this could be a lot of fun. Elsie Silver is definitely one of those must-buy authors for me. She's an addicting author. I loved the Chestnut Spring series. I do remember liking book 1. It wasn't my favorite, but I didn't dislike it. I'm very optimistic for book 2. I'm excited to see what happens. I love the single dad trope. The one thing that makes me a little bit nervous about this book is that it sounds very, very similar to Love Unwritten, which we just talked about. I'm so nervous. It sounds so similar to that book. The only thing that's keeping me positive though is that it's not as long. It's not 600 pages. I usually also find with Elsie Silver as an author, she has a very fast-paced type of writing style, which I really enjoy. That just keeps me hopeful and positive for book 2. But we have Wild Eyes. Next up, we have Haunting Adeline by H.D. Carlton. This is coming over from my August TBR. I didn't get to it in August. It's really not because I'm like nervous to read it at this point. I just didn't have the time or get a chance to. So this is definitely on my September TBR. I feel like fall season, cozy season, it is perfect timing to pick up some dark romances, and I actually have a few dark romances in this pile. I think it's going to be really interesting to kind of form my own opinions and thoughts on it. But Haunting Adeline, I've heard a lot of things about this book, but I'm excited. We're gonna try it out. Next up, we have Nightbane by Alex Astor. This is book 2 in the Lightlark series. I'm so excited for this book, guys. Book 1 was incredible. I'm obsessed with it, and it leaves off on quite a crazy note, so I cannot wait to continue on the story in Nightbane. I can't wait to read more about Grimm. He is still my favorite character. We have Not in Love by Allie Hazelwood. I have not read this yet. It came out a few months ago. I'm usually on top of it when it comes to her because she's one of my favorite authors, but for some reason I just haven't gotten around to this. and this is actually a book that I've heard a lot of mixed reviews on as well. A lot of people don't really like this book by her, and they say that it's just so drastically different from her other romances, which I think is really interesting, and I'm curious to see how I'll like it. I usually eat up anything that woman writes, so I have no doubt that I'll probably love this and adore these characters. There's also artwork in the book, and I'm living for this skating scene. I cannot wait to read about that. Next up, we have Wisteria by Adeline Grace. I am most excited for this book, guys. If you've been around a little bit this year, you've watched me cover Belladonna and Foxglove, which is book 1 and 2 in the series. I've patiently been waiting for Wisteria, which is the final book, and I'm so excited for it because I very much feel like it's gonna be the 5-star in the series for me, and I know I shouldn't say that. I know I'm probably jinxing myself, but I just have such high hopes for this in these characters and the way that Foxglove leaves off. Next up, we have some fun dark romances by Sophie Lard. She writes such fun dark romances, guys. They're super fast paced, they're action and adventure filled, which I absolutely love when it comes to dark romance. I love when there's a lot of good action scenes in them, and I also just feel like her romances are so addicting and fun. I love it. First up, I have The Sinner's Duet, which I think technically is 2 books in 1, but this is the special edition from Eternal Embers, and this was in collaboration with Larry Reeves. I think it is absolutely stunning. I think the details, if you look closely, are absolutely beautiful. Everything about this I am so intrigued about. I also feel like because this is one of Larry's favorite books, I'll also really enjoy it because I find that I enjoy a lot of the same books as she does. Then we have Year 1 in the Kingmaker series. I'm so excited for this because this is basically her spin-off series from the Brutal Birthright series. In the Kingmakers, we're basically following the children of the most powerful mafia families in the world, and a lot of them are the children of the characters we read about in the Brutal Birthright series, which I absolutely loved, adored, ate up, obsessed with it. I'm so excited to read about their kids though, and I feel like these books are just gonna be so much fun. In this one specifically, we're following Leo Gallo, the Gallows, and then we do kind of have a bad guy in the story who is Dean Yenin. I'm so excited about this series though because I'm so excited to revisit these families and characters. So our villain in this story is Dean Yenin, but I do know that book 3 or book 4 is his story. There's nothing I love more than a misunderstood villain. Next up, we're gonna jump into some fun mystery thrillers because we're going into fall season, which means we're going into spooky season. We should be reading some fun mystery thrillers. First up, I have A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. This will be a reread for me, but I haven't read this since like 2022, 2021. I can't remember, but it's definitely been a few years, and my main reasoning for wanting to go back and reread this is because the show recently it just dropped, and I would love to read the book and then watch the show and kind of compare the two. Next up, we have The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. This is a book I have had for the longest time, so I thought it'd be really fun to put it on my September TBR and try and tackle it this month. A lot of people say that they love this book and that they love this author, so I feel like this could be a lot of fun for the fall season, and I've also heard that it's not as spooky or scary as I thought it was going to be, so it's like the other main reason I don't mind picking it up in September. And then we have The Cheerleaders by Kara Thomas. I don't know much about this author, I don't know much about this series. I got sent this in a PR box though, and it just seems like a really fun mystery thriller. The back says there are no more cheerleaders in the town of Sunnybrook. First there was the car accident, not long after the murders happened. Monica's sister was the last cheerleader to die. There are no more cheerleaders in Sunnybrook, but that doesn't mean anyone else is safe. Very spooky. Next up, we have some fun little fantasy books. First, we have Beautiful Villain by Rebecca Kenny. This is another book that's carrying over from August for me, and I really want to read this book. It's basically a Great Gatsby retelling, but it takes place in modern time. I know there's kind of like a magical aspect to it. Can't remember for sure, but I believe there may be vampires in this book. Next up, we have The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. This is one of the book club options in my book club this month, and it actually sounds so cute and so cozy. To be exact, it's a lush cottagecore tale full of stolen spellbooks, unexpected friendships, sweet jams, and even sweeter love. This is the Owl Crate special edition that I think is absolutely stunning. The hardcover of this is what I love the most. It's really just giving off the ultimate cottagecore vibes. I have The Shadows Between Us by Trisha Levenseller. This is another book coming over from the month of August. It's a really short and sweet fantasy book that I would love to jump into because I did get book 2 a part of my Fairy Loot subscription, and I was told I shouldn't miss book 1 because it's just as amazing. So this is also on my September TBR. Onto the final stack of my September TBR. These are books that I feel like are just like must-read books in the fall time in general. First up, we have Pumpkin Spice and Everything Nice. This is like the ultimate cozy fall book. I mean, this book just screams fall, guys. Our FMC is Lucy, and she basically works at her mom's coffee shop. During the fall season, a new coffee shop opens up across the street, and they're like known for pumpkin spice lattes. Lucy doesn't like pumpkin spice anything, and when this new coffee shop moves in across the street, they kind of end up in a competition between who can make the best pumpkin spice latte. Oh, and the son of the owners of the new coffee shop is Lucy's like longtime crush at school, so that also kind of creates a little bit of conflict for her. We have some fun sport romances. We'll start with the 2 hockey ones that I'm really excited about. First one is Collide. I have seen such good things about this book. Basically, no matter how hard these two try to stay away from each other, their worlds just keep on colliding. Then I have Behind the Net by Stephanie Archer. This is book 1 in the Vancouver Storm series, and this is just a cutie little hockey romance series. I originally picked it up because a lot of you had recommended it to me, and a lot of you had compared Chris and I to the couple in book 2. So naturally, I was very intrigued and I wanted to check it out. So this is book 1 in the series. It's all about Jamie and Pippa. Jamie is an NHL goalie, and then Pippa has been working as like his assistant. The last 3 books I have are all football romances, and I have yet to read a football romance, which is so crazy to me. I feel like it is so fitting in September and in the fall season to read football romances because it's the time of football. I love football season. I love watching football. I think it's time to jump in to football books. First up, I have Coach by Devney Perry. This is a single dad trope though. It's about a football star who gets hired to be the new coach for this school, and our FMC in this book works at the school, and she used to date the football star. So I'm kind of sensing there's going to be a second chance trope in here. I always hear really good things about Devney Perry and her books, so I thought this might be a really fun one to try out. Then we have First Down by Grace Riley. This is Beyond the Play book 1, and she's an author I hear such good things about. Like, people love her sport romances. Tutoring the new star quarterback in exchange for a few fake dates won't lead to anything more. Our 2 main characters are James and Bex, and Bex ends up tutoring James, I guess, which I think will be really fun. And then the last book I have is The Wall of Winnipeg and Me by Mariana Zapata. This is a book I've had on my shelf for so long, probably a couple years now. It's a book that's been recommended to me a ton. It's highly raved about and loved by you guys, so I want to give it a chance this fall. Even if I don't get to it in September, I definitely want to try to get to it in either October or November. The one thing I will say about why I haven't picked this book up, so big and chunky. Honestly, I don't even think that's the main reason. It's so heavy. Like, this is a really heavy book. I've literally heard only amazing things about it, so I really want to give it a try. But that is all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you had fun. Thanks for hanging out with me today and going through all of the books on my September TBR, my August wrap up. I know I haven't been good with doing my wrap ups lately, so I'm hoping this video makes up for it. But happy fall, happy cozy season. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next one.